Shalom, everyone, and welcome to the second part of my testimony titled Finding Me. Before we start, I would just like to do a little prayer, and I'd invite you to close your eyes with me. Yahweh Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I present myself before you in this moment in the name of Yeshua. For it is written, whatsoever we ask in his name shall be given to us. Abba, ask that this moment be of a blessing to your children and to your people. I ask that this testimony glorify your name and your name may be lifted on high, and may it encourage the person that it is intended to encourage in the walk with Christ. In the name of Yeshua, I seal this moment and this prayer by the blood of the Lamb. In the name of Yeshua, I pray. Amen. All right, before we dive right into my testimony, I would just like to read a scripture from the book of Revelation, chapter 12, verse 11. And I'll read in the name of Yeshua. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. And they loved not their lives unto the death. So as we see here that we not only overcome by the blood of Yeshua, but we also overcome by the word of our testimony. We overcome the enemy. We overcome whatever ambush he may have for us by the word of our testimony, by testifying how good Elohim has been to us, and by testifying with about our walk with him. So last week I shared with you a little bit about my background and who my parents are, and what sort of background they came from, and up to the day when I saw my first vision at my uncle's funeral, my mom's older brother. I'd just like to open a little bracket before I get into today's. I was told by my late grandmother, may her soul rest in peace, that on the day I was born, it was basically a life and death situation between my life and my mom's life, and by the grace of Yahweh Elohim, we were both spared, and here I am today in front of you guys. Last time I stopped by when I saw my first vision at my uncle's funeral. I was about 8-9 years old, and from there basically I continue going to church. I went to church with my grandmother, as she was a pastor. So naturally, because I mostly stayed with her, when there were services, I would go, and I participated in the children's choir at the church, and that was basically it. And as I grew older, I started getting more more dreams and visions, but at the time though I did not know what it was specifically, and there were times I would see myself guarding groups of people. At times I would see, how do you call it, a warning for someone in the family, and then it will come to pass, and things like that. I remember this one particular time I was frantic, and I woke up in the middle of the night, my pillow all wet and sweating all over, and I related the vision that I had. It was actually with regards to one of my late grandmother's brothers. The vision was basically warning that he was in danger, and his life was in danger. And when I woke up, I was screaming, frantic, and my grandmother basically held me, and she shook me out of whatever trance I was in. And when I related to her, we prayed about it, not as much. I don't know. We prayed about it in general, and 2 weeks later, actually, we had the news that he passed. And it continued like that, and the visions were very, very vivid. And at the time, I did not. I believe I did not have the proper mentorship, the proper support in order to understand what I was seeing and what I was going through. And I did not, most of the time, I did not actually speak up about what was happening to me. But as I grew older, I noticed that the more I prayed, the more I went into fasting, the more vivid the visions became, and the dreams, the night visions and the dreams became as well. And in the beginning, actually, it was not as pretty and as pretty as people may think. Most of the time, it scared me. It scared me half to death. But somehow I just hung in there, and I didn't understand. So for me, basically, I just carried on with the church because it was expected of me. It was expected of me, and heck, I'm the grandchild of a pastor. You know what I mean? So it was expected of me to follow into that footsteps. And the reach actually a point, I didn't know myself. I didn't know the person that I was. And because of what I thought I knew at the time with regards to my birth father and my biological father, and I've basically actually found myself in Islam. So I wanted to find a part of me that I thought was missing. And at the time, I was under the impression, and because I was told of what background he was coming from, so I thought the best way for me to find out what that part of myself was to go into Islam and learn the Arabic culture and whatnot, so I can try and put the pieces of the puzzle together. And so I at the time I met up with a friend from university classes at the time, and it so happened that we attended lectures together, and it so happened that he was Muslim, and so naturally I expressed my curiosity and my desire to learn more about it and the culture, the whole culture around it and whatnot. And so he then in his turn introduced me to his girlfriend at the time, and I became friends with her, and I started going to madrasa with her, and went really deep into it and learned and tried to absorb as much as I could from the community. And best believe I felt, they made sure I felt at home, I felt at ease, and I felt welcomed. And I went through the whole madrasa, and I stayed in Islam for about 4 years of my life, and trying to find myself, and I felt welcome, you know what I mean, and I was comfortable until 30th of December 2012, if I'm not mistaken, 31st of December 2012. At the time I was staying with my mom, and she had this culture of the last 3 days of the year she would go into a 3 days dry fast, and to basically thank Elohim for the year that is finishing, and to give him the year that is starting and whatnot. And she had this culture that when she's fasting, nobody cooks in the house. So naturally I was forced to go into the fasting with them at that time, and I told myself, I need to lose the baby fat anyway, not knowing that that was a divine appointment for me. And I went into the fasting. The second day of the fast, actually, it was in the middle of the afternoon. Actually, it was between 3 and 5. I fell into a deep sleep, and and in this and then I found myself, like, there was a flood, and I was basically almost drowning, and my family were on these planks, and they're being drifted away, and somehow everyone had planks, and I was the only one who did not have a plank. I was in the water, and I was almost drowning, and I was being drifted away from my family, and I was shouting for them, and they couldn't help me because there was no space. And then I found myself suddenly in an auditorium, very big, fancy looking auditorium, like one of those fancy theater but somehow in my spirit I knew that it was a church. And I was on the stage at the pulpit, and there was a row of mics behind me, and at that moment I heard a small still voice that said, it spoke to me in French, but I'm gonna try and translate it in English. It simply said to me, "This is where you belong." And honestly stubborn me, I tried to argue with it. I was like, "What do you mean this is where I belong? I'm not Christian, I'm Muslim. What are you talking about? This is not my place." And in an instant, I basically found myself on a scale. I don't know how high it was, but I couldn't see at the bottom, and basically where I stood was the only space I had. I couldn't go any direction, no left, no right, no front, no backward, not any direction at all. And I was now being shaken, and now the then small voice was now no longer so still and calm. It was basically shouting at me, telling me, "Why are you so stubborn? You are not where you should be. I'm telling you, this is your place. This is where you belong. You are not in that space. You are not meant to be in that space you are in spiritually. You don't belong there. You don't belong there. Get out." And I basically I woke up and I was shaking. I was shaking, and I immediately took everything that represented Islam and in my life, and got rid of it. And that's basically how I got back to Christianity. That's my testimony for now. I hope to see you next week for the third part, and I hope this one would bless you. And until next time, before we go, actually, I'd like to read a little prayer. A little prayer from the book of Numbers. One moment, from the book of Numbers. From the book of Numbers. The book of Numbers, from the book of Numbers, that's the chapter 6, verse 24 to 26. I will read in the name of Yeshua. The Lord Adonai bless you and keep you. Adonai make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Adonai lift up his countenance upon you and give and grant you shalom. Until next time, have a blessed one, everyone.